All right, so we're going to take a look at a couple of questions from the review package in the respiration section. So it was talking about mechanics of respiration, particle model, and fluids. And I'm going to start off with number 3 because I noticed some people are having trouble with cellular respiration. All right, so number 3 here says where in the body, so we're looking for where, does cellular respiration take place? So we're trying to find the location where this happens. If we just take a look at what they're asking us about, it says cellular, which right away I can see that it has the term cell in there, and respiration. And from what we understand, from what we've been learning in class, respiration means breathing. And we have cell right in here, and we're looking for where. So where do we think our cells are breathing? If we think about that, where is this happening? So the answer to where this would be happening is in every cell of our body. So we don't only have one cell. It's not a unique location. Our entire body is made up of millions and millions and millions of cells. So what's happening inside the cells in order for our cells to stay alive? Okay, so we can just write inside every cell. And that would be a good enough answer. That's perfect. Okay, if we move on from that, and we look after that, and when it's asking us how does oxygen and carbon dioxide travel around the body? Okay, so now if we're talking about number 4, so we know that oxygen is what comes into our body when we're breathing, hopefully, among other things. And then carbon dioxide, so this is what we want on the way in. Carbon dioxide is the waste that we breathe out. Okay, so we know that that has to do with breathing. But we also need to know how it travels from one place to another. So when we breathe in, we learned about how it goes all the way through our respiratory tract. And then there's an exchange happening with our bloodstream. So at the alveoli, there's capillaries there. And the capillaries have blood that's passing by, and the blood makes an exchange of the oxygen for the carbon dioxide. So at that point, when we were learning about the cardiovascular system, which is the system where your heart is pumping your blood around your body, we saw that it goes to your heart, okay, once it has oxygen in the blood, and your heart pumps your blood everywhere in your whole body. So it's getting all over your body because your blood is carrying it there. So we can just write the way that it's getting from one place to another is it is carried in the bloodstream. Okay, and this is good for us to see too because it shows an overlap between different systems. So it doesn't mean that when you're looking at respiratory system that none of the answers could have to do with another system. And we're going to see that in the next question too. Okay, so number 5 is actually getting into cellular respiration and what the formula for cellular respiration is. So number 5, it says fill in the blanks for the equation of cellular respiration. And like we just said above over here, cellular respiration is your cells breathing. Okay, so basically your cells need 2 things to be able to stay alive. And they've already given us one of the answers, so that was pretty nice of them. They've already told us that they need glucose. Okay, and glucose, just in case we're forgetting, glucose is actually just like something that we get when we eat. Okay, so this is part of the energy that we have from eating, and that's how we end up that it gives us energy, which they've shown us over here. Okay, so glucose is basically like a component of carbohydrates. Okay, so it's kind of like sugar, but it's coming out of carbohydrates. So it doesn't mean that you're just eating sugar. It means that in carbohydrates, there's this element called glucose, and glucose is something that we need for our cells to be able to stay alive. So this is from food, but predominantly carbohydrates. Okay, and it's basically sugar. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, glucose. And then we end up having energy, which we need to be able to stay alive. Okay, but we have to think about, since we're looking at respiration, what is the other thing that we need? So what out of these elements that they've given us, carbon dioxide, water, and oxygen, which one of these do our cells need for cellular respiration? Okay, so respiration, again, we're talking about breathing here. So which one of these is the positive thing that we bring in when we're breathing? So that would be oxygen. Okay, so we're looking for oxygen here for the thing that's going on the way into the cells. Okay, so our cells need oxygen and glucose. We put those things together while our cell is breathing, it combines those things, uses them, okay, uses them to create energy, but then there are two other byproducts that are left over after they have used oxygen and glucose. So we end up with energy, which is what we need, okay, so that's great, but we're also going to be left over with these other two components. We're going to be left over with water, and we're going to be left over with carbon dioxide, which we can write as CO2. It's important to realize that carbon dioxide and CO2 are the same thing, okay? So we're left with water and carbon dioxide, and those are waste products of the body that we're going to have to get out afterwards, okay? So the water could maybe be redirected to use for other things because we know that we need water, but we also have to expel water when it's in the form of waste. So this one would be expelled by the excretory system, which we're going to talk about later on in this package. So the excretory system, but more particularly the urinary system. Okay, so this water is going to come out through our urine, and the CO2 goes back to the respiratory system. So respiratory. And CO2 is what we are going to exhale. That's what we're trying to get out of our body. So we send that back into our bloodstream from our cells, and that goes back up to the lungs. The exchange with the alveoli happens again, and we are going to exhale the oxygen, the CO2 out of our body.